Good morning, UAW family. Before we get started, I want to note a major organizing victory for our union. Last night, 2,900 graduate workers at Northeastern University voted by an overwhelming 94% to form their union with the UAW. Congratulations first and foremost to these workers who have fought a multi-year effort against intense employer opposition to win their union. And also to Regional Director Brandon Mancia and Lead Organizer Josh Gilbert for their great work on this effort. In Region 1, 400 workers at Lear, the auto parts supplier, just joined Local 155. President William Verdier and Recording Secretary Sylvanus Thomas worked hard to help bring these workers into our union. From auto to higher ed and everywhere in between, our union is organizing, growing, and building our power. It's not just new organizing, it's on the picket line too. Our 1,400 UAW members at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan just marked a week on strike. For years, the insurer has been outsourcing their work. Our UAW family at Blue Cross Blue Shield was once 5,000 strong. Today it's shrunk down to just 1,400. And the workers that are left are stuck in a tiered system where it takes 22 years to get to top pay. Our members have said enough is enough, and they are being strongly supported by Secretary-Treasurer Margaret Mock, Region 1A Director LaShawn English, and Region 1D Director Steve Dawes. They are all working together to raise awareness and build public support for this critical fight. Just yesterday, members of Local 259 in Region 9A struck for one day after their employer, an Infiniti dealership on Long Island, refused to come to the bargaining table. Management was suddenly quick to move, and they have set new dates for the negotiations. And at ZF in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, in Region 8, nearly 200 members of Local 2083 who make front axles for Mercedes are on strike after voting down a contract that would have raised healthcare costs, maintained tiers, and left workers behind economically. They're being supported all out by Region Director Tim Smith, and they will win. Outside Philadelphia, our Local 644 members at Domedek are fighting for their fair share. The company's making a killing, but many workers don't make a living wage. Region 9 Director Dan Vicente, who comes out of Domedek, has their back. And some of you may know Dan was hospitalized after suffering sudden and severe complications from COVID. But the day he was discharged, he recorded a message of support for his Domedek family. Nothing can keep Dan or our union down. Not far away in Dayton, New Jersey, our Local 2326 members at West Rock Packaging are standing strong in their strike. When COVID was at its worst, they worked overtime to make the cardboard packaging that kept our economy going. They made the company and CEO David Sewell rich. But now he wants to slash their health care, and we're not going to let it happen. In Newton, Iowa, our Local 997 members at Thombert are facing down another employer that wants workers to go backwards. Thombert refused to start bargaining until 1 week before our contract expired. Sound familiar? Then the company insisted on cuts to accident and sickness benefits. Our workers aren't having it, and Region 4 Director Brandon Campbell is giving them the support that they need. In just over a week, the contract for 3,500 workers at Mack Truck in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Florida is going to expire. Our union family at Mack are fighting back against attacks on their health care, a 6-year progression to top rate, frozen cost of living allowance, and tiers that have left new hires without retirement security. The stand-up strike movement is not just about the big three. Everywhere, UAW members in the working class are ready to stand up against corporate greed and stand up for our communities. Finally, I want to lift up our members who have been holding the line at the big three for the past week. Local 2250 Region 4 in Wentzville, Missouri at GM, Local 12, Region 2B in Toledo, Ohio at Stellantis, and Local 900, Region 1A at Michigan Assembly in Wayne, Michigan. They have shown us leadership, courage, and creativity on the picket line. You might have seen some of the videos of music being played on the picket lines or the long lines of Jeeps and Broncos in organized caravans. We salute them, and all I can say is reinforcements are coming. As we've said for weeks, we're not going to wait around forever for a fair contract at the Big Three. The companies know how to make this right. The public is on our side, and the members of the UAW are ready to stand up. Obviously, we're doing things differently this time around. Our stand-up strike strategy is designed to do one thing: win record contracts after years of record profits. We're focused on moving the companies at the bargaining table. That means maintaining our flexibility and our leverage to escalate as we need to. We can and will go all out if our national leadership decides the companies aren't willing to move. Right now, we think we can get there. Stellantis and GM in particular are going to need some serious pushing. Obviously, going on strike isn't something we take lightly, and it's not something we do without a clear strategy to win. So let's talk about our strategy at the Big Three and what's happening in negotiations. As you know, we gave our members' demands to the company 2 months ago. They wasted over a month failing to respond. And there has been some movement, and particularly this last week, we've made some real progress at Ford. We're not there yet, but I want you to see the direction that Ford is going and what we think that means for our contract fight. So at Ford, the Rawsonville Components and Sterling Axle employees will now be on the same wage scale as assembly workers. We have eliminated that entire wage tier. We've also officially reinstated the cost of living allowance that was suspended in 2009. UAW family, that's important because many people said this couldn't be done, and we just did it. We've also won, for the first time in our history, the right to strike over plant closures during the life of our agreement. I don't have to tell you that this is an important victory in our fight to save our jobs, keep families together, and keep our communities from being gutted. Also at Ford, we've won additional job security for our members in the event of layoff. If that happens, our members, including temporary workers, will now receive income security for up to 2 years with health care. We have moved Ford off of their concessionary formula to cut profit sharing and instead want an enhanced profit sharing formula that would have resulted in a 13.3% increase for average employee in payouts last year. We've won the immediate conversion of all current temps, and all temps will have profit sharing after 90 days service at Ford. And there are no concessions on the table. All that represents serious movement on tiers, on cost of living, on pay, and on job security. But to be clear, we're not done at Ford. We still have serious issues to work through, but we do want to recognize that Ford is showing that they're serious about reaching a deal. At GM and Stellantis, it's a different story. We have won a serious victory at CCA and GMCH, and we have killed those wage tiers. Those workers will now be on the same wage scale as assembly workers. Their first offer was a 0% raise for those workers. But without cost of living allowance, without strong job security, those gains aren't protected. Both companies are still offering a deficient cost of living allowance that is projected to provide 0 increases over the next 4 years. Both of those companies have rejected all of our job security proposals. Both GM and Stellantis have rejected our profit sharing proposals. And both companies have rejected our proposals to convert temps. So today, at noon Eastern Time, all of the parts distribution facilities at General Motors and Stellantis are being called to stand up and strike. We will be striking 38 locations across 20 states, across all 9 regions of the UAW. At General Motors, we call on the CCAs at Pontiac, Willow Run, Ypsilanti, Davison Road, Flint, Lansing, Cincinnati, Denver, Hudson, Wisconsin, Chicago, Reno, Rancho Cucamonga, Fort Worth, Martinsburg, Jackson, Charlotte, Memphis, and Philadelphia to stand up and go on strike. At Stellantis, we call on the parts distribution centers at Marysville, Centerline Packaging, Centerline Warehouse, Sherwood, Warren Parts, Quality Engineering Center, Romulus, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Denver, Chicago, Los Angeles, Portland, Atlanta, Winchester, Orlando, Dallas, New York, and Boston to stand up and go on strike. The plants that are already on strike will remain on strike. That's Local 2250 at GM Wentzville, Local 900 Ford Michigan Assembly, and Local 12 at Stellantis Toledo Assembly. We invite and encourage everyone who supports our cause to join us on the picket line, from our friends and families all the way up to the President of the United States. We invite you to join us in our fight. The way you can help is to build our movement and show the companies that the public stands with us and stands with our elected national negotiators. As promised, we're expecting to stand up strike in response to the lack of progress in bargaining with General Motors and Stellantis. We will shut down parts distribution until those two companies come to their senses and come to the table with a serious offer. The members who will join the stand-up strike today are living testament to one of the injustices we are fighting against at the Big Three: tiers. At Stellantis and GM, under the current Mopar and CCA structures, workers at parts distribution centers are permanently stuck on a lower wage scale. For workers hired after 2015, top pay maxes out at just $25 an hour, and it takes 8 years to get there. GM has offered to bring those workers into an assembly wage scale, but without cost of living and job security like we've won at Ford, those members are still at serious risk. This week, the president of GM wrote an op-ed talking about how supposedly great the wages are for 85% of their workers. We fight for 100% of our members, and we are committed to ending tiers across the board. That's just one of our core issues that we're still fighting for as we continue our stand-up strike. So at noon Eastern today, all parts distribution centers at General Motors and Stellantis will be on strike. This will impact these two companies' repairs operations, and our message to the consumer is simple. The way to fix the frustrating customer experience is for the companies to end price gouging. Invest these record profits into stable jobs and sustainable wages and benefits. It's that simple. This expansion will also take our fight nationwide. We will be everywhere from California to Massachusetts, from Oregon to Florida. And we will keep going, keep organizing, and keep expanding the stand-up strike as necessary. Across the country, people are going to know that the UAW is ready to stand up for our communities and ready to stand up against corporate greed. And I know more of you are ready to walk. I've seen incredible strike-ready demonstrations across the country. Local 551 and Local 862, we see you. Spring Hill, I know you're ready to go. And Kokomo, stand ready. Stick with us and be prepared. I've also heard of the members standing strong on the job. Remember, It's your right to refuse voluntary overtime. Under an expired contract, management has fewer rights to make unilateral changes. If you see something being changed in your workplace without bargaining, please head to uaw.org/standup and report it. You are our eyes and ears. Our greatest protection we have is each other, and we won't let the big three break the law. Finally, I want to remind all of you of one thing. The world is watching, and the people are on our side. We've seen poll after poll come out saying the American people support what we are doing. In fact, polls say support for our strike is growing. That's across parties, across ages, and across all kinds of people. And it's not just the U.S. Obviously, we've been in close contact with our Unifor family in Canada, and I know that all of you have been cheering them. Their fight is our fight. We've been in close contact with our Mexican union counterparts who have held demonstrations in front of GM offices in Mexico City. In Italy, 6,000 Stellantis workers recently went on strike. To our Italian union family, your fight is an inspiration. We support you, and your struggle is our struggle. From South Africa to Malaysia, we continue to receive letters and messages of strength and support, encouraging our members to hold the line and win big. And we will. So now it's time to hit the picket lines across the country. It's time to show the companies we are united, and we are fired up, and we are ready for a record contract. It's time to stand up against corporate greed. It's time to stand up for our communities. UAW family, I'll see you on the picket line.